Yes.
Yes, we can see your desktop there with the images of the cards.
I'm showing the presentation right now.
We don't see that. That's not the window that we see right now. We'll get there. I think no Zoom meeting is complete without some kind of technical issue. There we go.
Are you seeing it now?
So now we see a screen that says artwork by Bren Atchison.
Perfect.
And it's not in
Wonderful.
slideshow mode. So you might need to put it in slideshow mode.
And as you can tell, I get a little rusty nowadays that I'm not doing this every day. So it's like, oh yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. So there you go.
How's that?
So just click on where it says from beginning. Perfect. Now we got it.
Of course, advancing the screen, I'll have to remember how to do that, but that's all right. It will come to me. Good morning, everybody, and thank you again. It's so nice to have, so we start off with collaboration. So I'm thrilled to have my niece here who's helping me today. Thank you very much. I love intergenerational collaborations. That's part of what I do in life, and it just helps to strengthen everything. And Beth, thank you so much for your expertise and reminding me, oh yeah, you need to do this. And eventually you'll tell me how to click and move forward, because I know it's there somewhere. But I'm just gonna start with just a sample of some of the work I've done. As Beth said, I'm a mixed media artist, so I work with a lot of different materials and supplies. So I just brought up 3 examples. While they're all the same, they look the same on the screen in terms of the same size, they're all very different. The first one is actually ink on rice paper. It's a sun painting. And it's a very interesting technique and process. And maybe one day we can get together and do something outside. That would be great. Where we actually use the sun to enhance and impact our painting. The second one, and that one's maybe 18 by 6 inches. Whereas the next one is actually a donation box at Scusset Beach on Cape Cod. So that's larger, that's acrylic, and that's on a metal donation canister. And that's probably about, 4 or 5 feet tall. And the last one is a collage that actually is probably 3 feet by 5 feet. So they're all different sizes. Some are on paper base, some are paint, but they're just an example of the type of work that I do. So in today's session, as we talked about it, we're going to be making cards. We're going to be sharing our love, and we're going to use, this is an art experience that's going to be inspired, that is inspired by Valentine's Day. So with that in mind, though, there's all kinds of art, as we all know. There's all kinds of leaders out there in the art world, and we can be just so admiring the expertise and the artist skills that we see and we love. But I personally like those who are very expressionistic in what their approach to art, and are very free in terms of their sense of bringing forward what's coming from within. So I chose 2 leaders, and I admire their work greatly, and I use them as examples in what I do, especially when I'm doing very expressionistic type of work. So 2 artists that I love are Henry Matisse, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with Matisse's work. He really wasn't a painter until he got sick. And then when he began to lose his mobility, his family actually, they were tailors as a child. So when he switched to cutouts, actually it was a very natural thing for him because he had been around the the cutting of fabrics, et cetera, all of his life. So he began to do cutouts with paper, and actually became that in his 80s, that became some of his most famous work. And he is renowned for both his paintings and his cutouts. Also, Alma Woodsey Thomas, she is a colorist. She paints these vibrant images using very loose circle shapes, organic shapes, and we'll see a little bit of her work. Recently, a piece of her work was added to the White House collection, for example, in DC. With Matisse, this is an earlier piece. This is a painting. We see he too loves color and vibrancy. And of course, color and vibrancy, I'm hoping to encourage you to include today as you make your cards. The color can express messages and really give people a sense of warmth and love and experience. This is one of Matisse's. This one isn't even a cutout. It's just simply ripping papers. It's the snail to just show you that you can just use some very basic shapes and forms to communicate with a variety of brilliant papers. And of course, I could actually go and sit in the museum and just sit in a room full of Matisse's work all day and just feel so confident and so absorbed by his work. And I don't know how many of you have had a chance to see some of his work, but if you do get a chance, online or otherwise, I highly suggest that you take a moment and observe. This is Alma Thomas. This is the piece that actually is part of the White House collection. Again, she uses bright and vivid colors. She uses very loose organic shapes to create a message. I believe this one is called Resurrection. Another example of Alma Thomas's work, actually the one that we see on the left-hand side is actually, she was impressed with the NASA, and she came about at a time when we were sending vehicles into space, et cetera. So this is a representation of one of the space crafts being launched on a launch pad. And this one is just autumn leaves. This is an example of her work being exhibited in a museum. She tended to do large acrylic pieces on canvas. She would actually draw her shapes and then fill them in with paint. So I showed you those two artists because I'm hoping that it will inspire you with using the simple materials of paper or, of paper or markers to be able to create and generate your cards. So if you're using papers, I'm going to encourage you to kind of gather up your papers and your glue and your scissors, kind of have everything, kind of begin to prepare your desktop and just have everything around. We're going to look at my desktop in a minute. It's a mess, but it has a lot of stuff because we're going to have fun. And so it's right here in front of me. All you're going to need are these, like I said, vivid colored papers, some scissors, some glues, and your sense of spirit, your sense of a free spirit to do what you want to do and say what you want to say. And so that will be if you're using cutouts. And if you want to create a card with using color, and I recommend markers because it is no mess to clean up at the end. If you have paint, that's fine. If you have watercolors in front of you or any other paint, that's fine. But we're gonna use pencils, crayons. We can even use, sometimes I just do blue and white, to be honest with you, just an ink pen or a piece of graphite on a piece of paper. So all of that is possible. This is a card that I did for the Everyday Boston project I told you about, and this is a sample of just some cards that we did last year for that project that we talked about. You can see in our case, we just used single sheets of paper. In fact, this morning when I got up, I just said, okay, let me do a card or two to be able to just show people. So I will show you. I realize I'm showing my screen right now, but so we didn't fold them. We just used a piece of paper and begin to draw on it and create our cards. So that's pretty much the idea of it. This is one that I did this morning. For example, I just took a magazine, junk mail, and said, okay, I want some color and I want to be able to make a card and I want to do it quickly. So we can do something that fast, or we can take our time and really pull out at our materials and be able to do something. But before I start with making cards, I do want to say to you that if you have any questions or comments, we have that time to do that. I really would like to hear from you. I'd like to share with you. I'd like people within the group to be able to share with each other. So if anybody, and I'm going to glance at the chat, but if you have questions, I'm going to count on both Beth and Amber if they see something that goes into the chat, and we need to be able to stop, pause for a moment, answer it, that we do that. So from everyone that I'm gonna check and see if you're ready in terms of if you have, we're gonna look at my desktop for a minute and see what I have for materials and supplies, and then check with you to see if you're ready to start with doing. So you can see that I have a clipboard here, which has a white piece of paper, which is helpful because as I begin to add my colors, it's just easier to see. So I tend to work on a white piece of paper to get started. You don't have to have a white piece of paper, but that's how I work. I've got some cutouts that I had from previous activities. I may pull some of these out and begin to lay out a design for a card. I've got some paper here. These are hand painted papers that I had from the past that they don't have to be perfect. I'll take a pair of scissors and I will cut out some shapes. I'm going to suggest if you do cutouts that you start by, and a lot of times it just makes it, it goes quicker. I fold the paper in half. So at least everything's organic, but at least I have matching sides because I'm not the best. And I don't know about you, but I have arthritis. So I have to be able to say, oh, okay, what's gonna make it the easiest for me to be able to make some shapes and use them. So I'm I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this shape yet, but trust me, it will go on a card and it will be beautiful along with other pieces. So I'm gonna suggest if you're gonna do cutouts today, that we start by just pulling out some colors and cutting out some shapes and maybe have an accumulation of shapes that you wanna get started with. Does that work for people?
I think this looks wonderful, Bren. Maybe we could just pause a minute and see if anybody has questions or anything they want to say at this point. So let's just pause a moment, and please feel free to unmute yourself and make a comment, or you can also type your comment or question into the chat, and I'll keep watching the chat, and I'll let Brenda know if anything comes up in the chat for her to respond to. Let's just take a moment.
I just want to thank you, Brent, for that amazing art history lesson. That was really great to see the work of the artists.
That's great. And Penny, if I may mention, Penny is also a professional artist. So it's wonderful to have artists who work in different media and different kinds of visions here. And I also have always believed that we all are capable of creating, whether we call ourselves an artist or a writer or not. I know a couple of other people here are really gifted with words and others with music. And I also know everybody here is capable of creating and generating all these kinds of things, even if you don't consider yourself an artist or a writer or a musician. So I'm excited to see what gets stirred up during this exercise. Any other comments or questions at this point? Okay, back to you, Brenda.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you. So I'm going to actually take my cutouts, which I will reach for again, and put those away to just show you the other materials that I use, which are the markers. These markers are actually non-toxic. I prefer to use non-toxic markers. They're water-based, but they give you a brilliancy of color so that they will produce a very vibrant image, and they're great for filling in a shape in a very solid way, so that if you're drawing and you want to fill in your shape, certainly the markers will do that. I also have here, and if anybody has just some watercolors, if you want to be able to use watercolors to fill in your color, as well as I said, sometimes I will just do a pen, and I'll build some type of shape, and then and I don't really know what I'm doing here on the side. I'm doing it on the fly, but I will use a pen, and then I will just think I'm trying to get to my pear shape here.
So this is interesting. Judy just mentioned in the chat that she's using fabric scraps and not big enough for a heart to be cut. So she's making a V and writing inside the card Happy Valentine's, which is a neat approach. So yeah, you can sometimes use three-dimensional materials as well that you can attach to your paper.
Absolutely. In fact, I have a few pieces where I've done with fabric that are really quite nice. So it is really about taking what you have access to. It can be newspaper. And I have, I'm actually in my studio right now. And when I first moved to this studio, one of my neighboring artists gave me a bouquet of flowers. I hadn't even unpacked yet. And I'm like, oh, these flowers are so beautiful. And the room was so full of stuff, and I wanted to capture them. And I said, well, I'll never be able to unpack to do a painting of these flowers. I'll never get to my materials and supplies. So what I had was some newspaper. And so I said, well, and this was my first time, and certainly it's not artists do it all the time, but this was my first time doing it. And then I just said, oh, I can take my markers and I can just go over this newspaper and I can just create an image. And obviously I'm just doing something here real quick, but I can create and make it something. So if that's all you have is some newspaper, you can use newspaper.
I love that. I think that's actually very cool looking. And
It's
Brenda, I'm looking around at people's videos and I see that there's lots of making going on already. Is that fine that people are jumping right in and starting?
That's exactly what I want them to do.
Perfect. Okay, so please go ahead and you can listen to Brenda and watch her as you go, but just go at your own pace.
And since you've gotten started, then because that really is all in terms of materials and supplies. I was trying to encourage people to just pick up stuff and get started. So I'm actually going to probably now try to do something a little bit more structured. Beth, I know you have some music that you can play for us in the background, because right now the pipes are clanging. So you're hearing my heating system, which is probably not the best. I can even mute myself while we take maybe 15 minutes why don't we take about 10 minutes to quietly work on a project, if that works for everyone. I think it does.
That's good.
I can see how busy they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in a good
exactly.
way.
So I'm gonna go on mute. If you play some music, that would be great. I think people do have the idea in mind. They can fold the paper in half. They can create it any way they would like.
Sounds great. So I'll go ahead and put on some soft music in the background and we'll just all do our work for about 15 minutes and then we'll kind of check in with how everybody's doing. Sounds good. So I'm just going to get the music set up. It takes me a second here. How's that volume? Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, great.
I can't hear it.
You can't? Okay, I'll make it a little louder, Janet. Thanks for letting me know.
Still a little softer. I don't know if it's for
Yeah, I'll
other-
make it louder. It's a funny thing about this function is I really can't tell, so I appreciate that feedback. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Mhm. Hi, Asher. Our youngest Memory Cafe guest is on screen right now. Hi there.
For his Temple Lamuna class to start at 11. Hi, Tiffany.
Oh,
So good. Hard to believe.
what else is sending? So Beth,
Yeah,
how do you think we're doing in terms of timing?
I think we're doing well. I see a lot of hands busy working there. Um, maybe folks could give me a show of hands and let me know, would you like another 10 minutes to just keep working before we check in with each other? How many people would like a little more time? Okay, so Bren, how does that sound? We'll go till 11:05 and then we'll check in again.
I think that sounds perfect.
Okay, so I'll turn up the music again just a little. Hi Nadine, welcome. So Nadine, we're just listening to music and making cards so people have their materials out, paper, pens, whatever they have. And we're going to do that for another 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to sort of look at what we've got. So feel free to just jump right in. Good to have you here. I'm going to spotlight Bren's screen here so you can all see what she's doing in case you'd like to watch, because it's also lovely and relaxing to watch somebody else create. So a couple more minutes and then we'll pause and see how everybody's doing. We'll just pause at the end of this song. How's that? Doesn't mean you have to be done. You can keep working all afternoon too. Sometimes a project like this just gets us going and then we get a lot more ideas. So there is no limit to how long you can spend on this if you'd like to. It's a perfect day for it. Wonderful. So let's pause here. And Brenda, do you want to check in with how people are doing? You're on mute.
Unmute, I'm unmuting now. And so how, everyone, how are we feeling about our designs? And of course, I want to know if anybody would like to share their designs. So,
So if you want to do that, you could hold what you made up to your camera.
My,
Oh, Janet, that looks beautiful. So Janet is holding up her wonderful Happy Valentine's. I love that.
the spotlight, Janet?
Good idea. Let's see. I don't know. I can't see Janet's screen now. I'm not sure why.
Just,
All right. Well, here, let's
I love them.
Oh, there we are. So very nice. Len and Sharon.
Uh-huh.
Excellent.
Ah,
And Judy. Oh, there's your V made out of fabric. Very cool. Let's see. What I'm gonna try to do. There we go. And Tom and Penny. Those are great. Okay, so those are Tom's and those are Penny's, and you've taken the same themes, and you've got each of you have your kind of unique signature on that. That's great.
We have some flowers on the table, so we're just copying them here.
Oh, so those are you're drawing from life. That's wonderful. Oh, wow. Look at Judy's. Your memory cafe card. That's fabulous. Look at all those great three-dimensional flowers and hearts. And Mildred's beautiful piece on earth. Are those little cranes?
Yes, I didn't finish. I made it myself.
That's fabulous. They're so tiny. Oh my goodness.
I got the tissue paper.
That's great.
Beautiful.
I know we're getting a little feedback here. I'm going to try muting folks, but feel free to unmute yourself when you want to say something. Judy, I love that. That's great. Look how three-dimensional. Those look like roses that you could just pick from the garden. That's so cool. And Judy, can you hold yours up to the camera a little bit more?
Like that, kind of like this.
Yeah, that's great. Nice. Ah.
Yeah, she made an open card, so.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. To love a person is to know the song in their heart and sing it to them when they have forgotten. That is beautiful. That is a wonderful thought for today. And the other Judy, Judy G, can you hold yours up? For all you do, thank you. It's lovely. Happy Valentine's Day. Great. That is great. I love the fabric. Wonderful.
Beth, I think we have some extraordinary works of art here.
We do.
Yes.
Any of the Brandeis students make something that you want to show? Oh, Eris, let me see if I can spotlight you so everybody can see that. Hold that up one more time. Oh, that is neat. I love that. All the actions on the inside. That's great.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn from the presentation, like the expressionism style, but I'm not sure if it's. I'm trying to like, yeah, mimic that style.
I think it's wonderful. I love the colors and I love the surprise of opening it. That is great. And Lynn, can you hold yours up again? Oh, cool. Happy Lunar New Year. Yes, Year of the Tiger.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, this February 1st is Chinese New Year. So, and I think the New Year is the time that people are full with love. So, Happy New Year.
That's wonderful. Thank you for bringing that celebration into the Zoom room as well. And what a cool card that is. And Eve, let's see what you've got. Wow, that
Yeah.
is neat.
Yeah, I have a lot of collage, like scrap material. And so I like doing mixed media with like magazine cutouts and then some paint pens, things of the sort.
Wonderful. That's great. Did anybody else want to show what they made who didn't have a chance yet?
I'm going to show mine. I'm not nearly as complete as everybody else.
Oh, that's okay. Let me
But
get
I
you
was
back.
hoping-
Let's get you back on Spotlight there, Bren.
I did this one with the little symbol that I had cut out earlier. So I did this a la Matisse with the cutouts.
Lovely.
This one with more the Alma Thomas. So I would fill in much more, but I began to I just start and then I kind of grow as I go and say, oh, okay, what do I want? I want a tree, I want. So this is still, both of them are still works in progress, but yes. Thank you all so much. I am just delighted to see everything that everybody did. Hopefully I'll get to see them again too, hopefully. And Beth, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about the platform and uploading it or.
Yeah, let's do that. And welcome Suzanne, who I saw arrive. That's great. So again, you don't have to stop your card making now. You can continue throughout the afternoon and tomorrow, you know, this weather is perfect for being cozy indoors, maybe putting on a little soft music and just letting your imagination expand. So please feel free to continue. And so we're going to talk a little bit now about sharing the cards. And I wonder, Brenda, could I ask you, before we talk about the platform, could I ask you to say again a little more about the project with City of Boston and how cards have been shared for those who came late? Because I just thought that was really neat.
Absolutely. So every year, Everyday Boston does a project that really, it's about building community and building connections and interconnections between communities in Boston. So we encourage people to just do what we just did, quite frankly, make some cards. And then we encourage people to do one of two things. We can either distribute them on, or we can do a combination, distribute them on the street to complete strangers, and we can upload them to a platform, which Beth will talk about a little bit later on for this particular project, but they use a similar platform, and they make sure that these cards get electronically distributed to people. So the people they target may be people in elderly buildings that don't really are isolated and don't really get to have loved ones who they're interconnecting with, or so it's a sense of letting people know that they're not alone and that we think about them. For the people on the street, I went out on the street my first time. I was like, oh, I don't know this. I can't walk up to a perfect stranger. And I began to hand out my cards, and it was amazing the reaction I got. I'm surrounded by the hospitals, there's a police station down the street, et cetera. And I walked up to one nurse, and this was right when COVID first hit. So this is a couple of years ago. I didn't know she was a nurse. She was just a person on the street. I walked up and gave her a card, and she was just so appreciative. She said, you know, I've been working straight 12-hour shift. This really just has made my day. Thank you so much. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I mean, that was the intent of why we do this. But when you really see the reaction and how appreciative people are, the police station down the street, I went, the door was locked. That's not very odd. But I wasn't going to give up, and there was an officer leaving, and I approached him and I gave him one, and he was so appreciative and you know, thanked me deeply for it. And it wasn't until the next day when I saw the news, I found out that that station, somebody had decided to go in that particular day, earlier that day, and disrupt it. So they had to lock the doors. So I didn't know that. So having approached him and giving him a thank you, you know, we appreciate you, you know, we love you type of message was very just spot on in a timely manner. So you never know what's going on in somebody else's life. It's really nice to say.
Oh, that's wonderful. What a amazing couple of stories those are about giving the card to the nurse and bringing the card to the police station. And as you said, you never know how much it could light up somebody's day. And so as you were talking, I was thinking about where I might give a card to someone I don't really know. And one idea I had was I could leave it in the mailbox for the person who brings the mail. And I wonder if anybody else has an idea of a way they could give, you know, somebody they have in mind right now to give their card to, whether it's somebody you know or somebody you don't know. Does anybody want to unmute and say an idea you might have for what you could do with one of your cards?
The teachers,
To someone at church?
a teacher.
Oh,
or
a teacher. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, teachers really need our support right now. They have been struggling so much. I have a high school student, and I have just been watching a high school struggling to keep kids in school and keep kids safe. And the pressure they're under is so intense. So I think, you know, for anyone to get a message of love and support right now is so meaningful. Those are great ideas.
Inside.
Anybody else have something you'd like to mention?
In you. That's a pencil.
Oh yeah, Janet, we
My grandson made this.
oh. How old's your grandson? There's nothing like a
He's
homemade nothing like a homemade card from a grandchild, from a
Did you hear me? He's
friend.
8.
He did good.
Yeah.
Nothing like a homemade. It's wonderful.
I know. Yep.
Thanks for showing that to us, Janet. And Tom and Penny, I think I
Thank
saw you
you.
unmuted.
I was just going to say, maybe for someone who's delivering groceries or the Amazon delivery person, to keep us safe at home.
That's a great idea. Boy, those Amazon drivers, I don't think they get to make personal connections very often.
No, I think
They're
that's
under
great.
just such intense time pressure, and it's all about the transaction. And I bet that would be a very meaningful and surprising thing for a driver to get to receive a card. That's lovely. So Brenda and her niece Amber, who's here helping us today, have this really wonderful platform set up that will allow you to send a photo of your card to us if you would like, and then we can share them with the group. I can put sort of a collage together so you can all receive that and see everybody's artwork. And we can also share them with the Everyday Boston project. So I am going to just show you how this works. I'm going to share my screen. And I just need to find it. Let's see. I had it set up before, but it looks like I need to open it again. So just bear with me for a moment.
This is where I used to go to.
Whoops. Let's see. I'm trying to find where I put it. Okay, here it is.
Well
Here
done.
it is. Okay, so sorry about that. So can you see a blue screen and it says JF&CS on top and then submit a picture of your card? Excellent. Thank you, Mildred, for letting me know. So let me just explain what this is. This is called Jot Form. And so Brenda and Amber have set this up for us. And what you can do is take a picture of your card and then upload it here. And you just put in your name and you can upload your picture and then click submit. And then we will receive it. So for some of you, that process might be familiar. You're used to taking a picture of something and uploading it, and that seems doable, so that's fine. If this is not anything that makes sense to you, don't worry about it. And for Ed, I know you're just on the phone, and so you aren't able to see the instructions, and that's fine, don't worry. So I emailed everybody this link to the Jot form a few minutes before the cafe started, so it should be in your email. And so if you're comfortable doing this, then you can go ahead and do so. Or you can do it later today whenever you have a chance. And then we'll receive those cards and we'll share them. Any questions about what I just showed you? Okay. And again, if this isn't something that you're familiar with, don't worry about it.
Well, actually, I just had a question, Beth.
Yeah.
Do you print them out then, or do you send them to people electronically? What do you do with it at your end?
We will send them to this group electronically, and I will attempt to print them and see how they come out. And if they come out okay on our printer at work, I can also share a copy with Schechter Holocaust Services to be given to their guests. So with that one, I'm just not quite sure because I've never done this before with Jot form, how the resolution will be.
Would you prefer that we also mail you the cards for that?
If you would like it to be given to the Schechter Holocaust Services program, it would be ideal if you can mail it. Okay. And I'm gonna email everybody after today and I'll send you my mailing address. So if you're able to do that, that's great. But again, I don't want anybody to feel any pressure. If that's something that's difficult to do, don't worry about it, because I know it requires a big enough envelope and postage. So it's your choice whether you're able to do that or not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say hello to Jack.
Hi, Beth. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a long time since we've seen you.